education is different meaning for different people. For student, it has a different meaning. For a teacher, it has a different meaning. For the institute, it has a very different meaning. The parents, the society, and then the employer. So everyone looks at culmination of an educational system, the end result of an examination very, very differently. And these are the various stakeholders who actually get affected by the outcome of this. And where does AIPC get into it? AIPC not only identifies the problems which are facing the society, we try to find a solution to it, and then come out with some kind of advisory or a suggestion which can be adopted by the authorities which are there. Without taking any more time, I would request Roshan, you please start with the proceedings.
Yeah, thank you, Yogesh. I believe everyone is conscious of the fact that we've lost 10 very important minutes of one of the best lawyers of the country. So we would probably want to compensate, and also at the same time request Mr. Sibal to probably be with us till 7:10 if his schedule permits, because we had planned for 30 minutes, but obviously with hackers and I would say deviant people around, you can never know. So just quickly moving on, Amitabh, can you quickly talk about the policy work which AIPC does, and the kind of policy work we've done in the past and what we intend to do in the future?
Sure, Roshan, I'll keep it extremely brief because before you came in, Mr. Sibal said he had a hard deadline of 7 o'clock. He'd already specified. So all I'll say to the people assembled here is that Roshan's work is one excellent example of the kind of policy analysis that we at AIPC do and strive to do. It's a current topic, it's an important topic, and Roshan has done an excellent piece of research to bring the facts out and take it to the public. So as we go forward, we want all of you AIPC members to think about how you can contribute to the policy discussion. And whatever the topic is, whatever your expertise, come forward and we will support you, we will work you, and we will even help you build your own brand as a policy analyst where we can. So thank you.
Thanks, Amitabh. Thank you for that quick kind of an introduction on the policy work which we do. Without wasting any time, Alim, if you can come in and talk about, the organization of AIPC and, whatever you want to send through the platform to the people who are listening.
Thank you very much. Again, as Amitabh and everyone says, I first want to compliment Roshan for the incredible work he's put into this particular report. It's a very important conversation on a very important issue. I want to compliment Sibalji for always being such a vocal advocate for the working professional. Lawyers like him inspire us all to be a part of the AIPC and to be a part of the Congress. Everyone knows the AIPC is the platform for progress. If you haven't joined us, all I'll say is please log on to our website, www.profcongress.com. This report, along with all of our other great conversations and reports on policy issues, is available online. So if anyone asks if they'd like to see a copy of this report, it'll be available on the AIPC website. With that, I'll conclude and I'll request Roshan to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Alim. Thank you. So now just getting straight into the subject of the day without wasting any further time. I would like to first highlight as to what the problem is and why there was a need to, deliberate on this issue at such a national level with some experts on board. The lockdown, obviously, all of us know, happened in the last week of March. When the lockdown happened, there were some certain segments of our population which got affected. Some got affected more than the others. Unfortunately, university students were those who were the most affected, along with, let's say, some poor migrants or, let's say, some MSME enterprises. So university students were severely affected because they were looking at exams which was right around the corner. And because of COVID-19 and because of the lockdowns of the MHA, obviously all educational institutions shut. And therefore, everyone was in a dilemma as to how exactly would the exams happen and whether it'll happen at all or not. So UGC came into play, and I would just like to quickly highlight the relevant notification of 6th July 2020. It is the notification of 6th July 2020, which was issued by the UGC. Now, we all know UGC in India is the body which regulates all the educational universities, private and public. And UGC made very clear through by way of this notification that, listen, we are going to have exams, COVID or not COVID. Situation of students is something which UGC claimed to have empathized with, but at the same time, UGC was very clear that exams are going to happen. And therefore, the guidelines said that either the university can choose an online offline mode, or the university can do an online exam, or the university can do an offline exam with social distancing, which obviously begs a lot of questions, which I'm going to ask. So on 17 July 2020, AIPC conducted a webinar where Mr. Sibal again was very forthcoming in sharing his ideas, along with Mr. Thorat, who is an ex-UGC chairman, Mr. Neeraj Kundan, who is the NSUI national president, and Mr. Khan, who is one of the ex-professors, vice chancellors of AMU. After that webinar, AIPC thought that it might not be a very bad idea to convert this into a proper white paper. Because what is happening is that there is a lot of articles and data scattered in the public domain. What AIPC wanted to do was to consolidate the entire data in the public domain and build an argument out of this, so that the UGC and the MHRD can actually be compelled that, listen, here is the data, here are the numbers, now the decision is yours. So on that line, we developed this white paper, and this white paper is going to be launched by Shri Kapil Sibal ji and by Shri Salman Soz. I don't think either Shri Kapil Sibal ji or Shri Salman Soz needs any introduction. So I would probably, just skip that and right away request both Mr. Sibal ji and Salman Soz ji to release the white paper, after which we will have a 10-minute question answer quick session before the close of the event. Jeet, can you put on the paper probably on the screen? If we can slowly scroll it down so that our guests and the dignitaries who are releasing the paper can see it. Yeah, so if you can come to the index, Jeet, index. That is no. You need to scroll up. No, don't scroll down. Yeah, you need to scroll up. Yeah, just 1 second. So this white paper, first of all, talks about the background and context. It then talks about what is the status of UGC in the Indian legal system, and what are the kind of binding nature of the notifications which UGC issues, and the Supreme Court judgments and interpretation on the same. Then the objections raised by students. Now this white paper goes into the lives of 7 to 8 distinct students and talks about the problems that they are facing, and tries to draw an analogy as to the kind of problems which other students would also be facing in similar situations. Then the infrastructure in India with regard to technology, how exactly it will be impossible for the students of India to actually get onto a computer computer hardware and access internet. Then the teacher's perspective to online exams, another very interesting point, that a lot of professors are themselves saying that, listen, this is a terrible idea, saying that UGC, please don't be so adamant on this idea, it's a terrible idea, please, there are other ways of evaluating. And then the counter viewpoints. So we have made a balanced paper. We understand that we are AIPC and we are in the opposition, and therefore we have to critique the government. But at the same time, we have given our counter viewpoints as well, counter viewpoints from the standpoint of UGC. So we have put ourselves in their shoes, and then also try to see the entire scenario, and then the recommendations at the end. So this is basically the content. Salman has very kindly agreed to write a forward, which is also there. Jeet, if you can come quickly to the forward, which is 2 pages down. Yeah, this is this one. This is the forward, and then the paper goes on, and in the end it talks about AIPC and some copyright claims which we have. So we will be releasing all this paper. If Mr. Sibal can have the floor now, and along with Salman.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I want to congratulate you, Roshan, for this excellent piece of work that you've done. I've quickly glanced through it. Of course, I didn't have the time to read through the entire paper in detail, but I and Salman are delighted to release it at this AIPC event. I think that we should do more of these events, because what you're doing is that you are building a framework for the future. The fact of the matter is that we'll have to investigate the role of the UGC in matters of this nature. I mean, the UGC can't, without consultation across India with the university systems, cannot impose without understanding the diversity of India. This whole concept of an examination before you get promoted or before you get into the university system. I think that that's something that needs to be assessed in the future. Number two, when we say that India is diverse, there is an assumption behind it that its educational system is also diverse. There's also an assumption behind that the student community is diverse. That the canvas of education in India is different from state to state and within the state from district to district, right? And in Maharashtra, for example, a survey was done and 93% of the students said, I believe, that there should be no examination, right? Now, you can't therefore impose your will. The UGC can't impose its will because there are academic councils, there are executive councils within the university system where there is student representation. And unless each university, through its academic council, as well as executive council, with representation from students, gives its opinion as to what should be done, the UGC cannot impose that opinion sitting in Delhi. Now, I have a fundamental issue with this whole process of deciding that there must be an examination without understanding the diversity of India.
Mr. Sibal, can I quickly jump in and ask a very relevant question on this point, since you will be best placed to answer it? Now, UGC is claiming that these degrees which are going to be issued by the universities, wherein, the universities do not conduct the exams and promote on the basis of internal assessments, the UGC claims that these degrees will not even be worth the paper on which they are written. To what extent is that claim true, Mr. Sibal?
Well, you see, there is a statutory prescription that you have to pass a particular examination to enter the university system, right? Now, there are lots of statutory prescriptions that are applicable in India in the absence of a pandemic. In the midst of a pandemic, you can't apply a statutory prescription which applies in normal times. So while they are technically right, that's precisely the point that I was making. The UGC may be technically right in saying this, but they must understand that there exists in India an education divide. There exists in India a digital divide, right? And what you are doing is you are oppressing through this diktat the poor in this country, the challenged in this country, the disabled in this country, right? And I don't mean disabled in a physical sense. I mean disabled in the context of where they are from. You go to the interiors of Rajasthan, the interiors of West Bengal, the interiors of Orissa, the interiors of Andhra. Where are you going to get Wi-Fi connections, right? Where are the CSC centers that they talk about, right? And for those who are challenged, where are the scribes who are going to help them? And where is that software? And many of them have left their dissertations, their exam, the material that they got back home when the lockdown was announced. And many of them have left their homes and left their hostels and are back in their homes without the material. But as you know, this government acts on diktats, right? Top down, right? So this top-down approach is inconsistent with our democratic processes and the fundamentals of democracy. And I think that this government is doing great damage to the system.
Yeah, extremely relevant points. And I think the highlight of, I believe, that point is that, I mean, Ronald Dworkin, obviously, as lawyers, we all know Ronald Dworkin said very clearly that we should take our rights very seriously. And, when you see the kind of discrimination which is happening across the country, where the poor is not able to compete with the rich on an academic platform, that is a complete breach of right to equality enshrined under Article 14, which is very well brought out by Mr. Sibal. So now, Salman, if you can quickly come in and probably, shed some light on the issue at hand. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Sibal Saab's point is extremely relevant because this government has a tendency to centralize uniformity. I think what they fundamentally fail to understand what India is about. That's why we used to say unity in diversity. They don't seem to understand that. They don't seem to get it. And this idea that I'm going to use an analogy from economics to come at this topic, right? Because if the UGC says that these certificates will not be worth the paper they're printed on, in some ways they disregard what the pandemic is about. In a similar sense, the government has disregarded what this pandemic is about. There are millions of people in India who are going to suffer greatly because this government refuses to get cash into the hands of the poorest people in this country so that they can feed themselves and create a cycle by which demand is created. And the argument they put forward is the rating agencies will downgrade India. That is so ridiculous. No ratings agency right now is worried about whether India is going to have a higher fiscal deficit because everybody understands it. So this government refuses to prepare for things. I can give you one more. Remember when Rahulji came out with this February 12th warning on coronavirus, and of course the government was not prepared. The government was preparing for President Trump. Let me just say this now. Whenever there is a vaccine, I hope one comes soon, the government of India will not be prepared to deliver and administer that vaccine because the Prime Minister said they have a plan. Where is the plan? Should we not be seeing the plan? Should it not be open to public scrutiny? These people don't prepare. That is why they don't consult. There is no stakeholder consultation. They come out with an order and say, this is what is going to be done. And we've seen it repeatedly. We've seen it in demonetization. We've seen it in GST. We've seen it at the time of the coronavirus. There is no preparation. These guys are simply not there with us. They have to be open, transparent, accountable. They're not, and that cannot work. So this centralization, this idea that there's going to be one, uniformity in India, I think that is what is causing great damage to India. And this UGC diktat is the latest in so many of these things. Yeah. But let me just also take this opportunity, Roshan, to you and colleagues in Delhi. Thank you so much for coming out with this report. We don't claim to be an academic institution. We have to advocate for certain policies. And I see this report in that context, and it's really well done. Thank you very much to you, Roshan, and to
thank you, Salman.
Salman, if I just may enter, I somewhat disagree with you that they don't have a plan. They have a plan to fool the people. They've done it before, they'll do it again.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that comment. Salman, you're absolutely right. I mean, fake news is a very big problem, and it's extremely important for the citizens of the country to verify before they actually believe these gimmicks and these kind of thoughts which are going around that something of this sort will be ranked as badly. It will look badly on the country's educational system if we kind of ignore the exams and all of that. So these claims have to be verified by the citizens of the country, and the citizens of the country need to, before accepting something, actually do their own research at some level before accepting it. Now, Mr. Sibal, just one last question. I understand that you're short pressed for time and we are already probably beyond schedule. But one very important question which I really did want to ask you was with regard to the fact that the NDA-led government and the UGC have consistently claimed that, listen, these degrees are important because these students are going to walk out in the employment markets. And tomorrow, when they walk out in the employment markets, these degrees should have some sense of credibility. Because if they do not pass the exams and directly go to the employment markets, probably their profiles would not be equivalent to the profiles of the other batches who have come before or after them. And they can probably be tagged as COVID batches. And that was a term which was doing the rounds in the media. So from the meritocracy point of view, and from the entire point of view of whether this kind of a proposal, which let's say the Congress is proposing or NSUI is proposing, that you promote the students on the basis of internal assessment and the past record, will that actually kill merit? Mr. Sibal, will that actually mean that the graduates of this batch will be any lesser than the graduates of other batches?
If you ask me, an internal assessment based on past record is a much surer way to determine the quality of the student and his academic expertise and record, rather than a one-time examination, because a one-time examination can in fact be inconsistent with the academic record of the student, right? So it's a one-off situation. So quite frankly, a degree based on past performance and internal assessment, right, of the teachers of the institution itself is a much surer way of determining the quality of the student than a one-off examination. And therefore, the so-called quote-unquote COVID student, right, who gets a degree, and he should get a degree based on his internal assessment and past performance. According to me, academically, the assessment is far surer than a one-off and one-time examination with the results. That's my view.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Sibal. I can't even tell you how many students would find that so comforting across the country that our ex-HRD minister is of the firm view that internal assessments can actually be a substitute to these exams. And it obviously makes sense because, you know, we've seen these kind of experiments in the West and in the developed countries, you know, done successfully. They don't rely on exams as much as we do. So I am sure that, you know, we will be able to spread disseminate this knowledge and disseminate this view across the country. I hope that the HRD ministry and the UGC considers our white paper seriously and probably, you know, invites us at a stakeholder level and, you know, at a level in which probably, you know, Mr. Sibal can represent as
Roshan, look at it this way. In the US, you have your GRE scores, right? Right. When you go to the university, they don't look at, you know, they look at your academic record. They don't look at the one-time examination and admit you. So why can't India follow a more liberal way of actually entering the university process and giving autonomy to the institution, right, to determine the academic quality of the student that they are taking in, right? This whole process of sitting for an exam, getting marks being the basis of quality, I think is just antediluvian in the 21st century. That's my view. And with that, I request you to allow me to
Absolutely. Mr. Sibal, thank you for your time. Just 1 minute of closing comments from Mr. Ashish, and then we will dissolve the session. Ashish, can you just give quickly closing comments? You're muted. You need to unmute yourself, Ashish.
May I leave?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I'll just close with this event with a thank note to Kapil Sibal sir and Salman Soz sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.